Sorry, there we go. Had to click something there. And so you're really telling that story with your data and kind of guiding the user on what you want to see within that dashboard. Dashboard tokens really allow that to be a little bit more dynamic. They can improve efficiency by presetting tokens to limit the data on dashboards that are being opened. You can set them in multiple places with a single click, and that's streamlining the experience. And you can also produce more effective dashboards that can change as the data does. And that's especially true with the dynamic tokens that I'll be showing off that are set by a search. And then that search will go out, set a token, and you'll be able to kind of dynamically change dashboards as your data changes. And so using dashboard tokens in classic dashboards, for both, it's going to be the syntax is wrapping the token name in $signs. This can be set up through the GUI or on the back end, not GUI, essentially. So the example to the right will be one that we'll be looking at. That is one that has to be set in the backend source code. But you can also set more simple tokens and cross-dashboard tokens in the GUI, which we'll also be going over with classic dashboards. And Dashboard Studio, again, we're going to wrap those tokens in $signs, but you're able to use the GUI exclusively in Dashboard Studio, and it uses searches or chain searches, which chain searches in Dashboard Studio can be similar to a base search that I was talking about. So let's go ahead and just jump into the interesting meat of this presentation, and we'll be jumping into Splunk here. So let me zoom in just a little bit, make it bigger here. So this is my own personal testing environment, not a production environment, so the data will be a little bit less than you're expecting, but we can go ahead and jump right in. So I'm going to kind of structure this as what I call basic tokens. Then we're going to jump into dynamic tokens, and then we're going to be jumping into cross-dashboard tokens. So to start with basic tokens, I'm going to get a search here. Let's just say index equals main. And so I'm going to have my main index here. This is just some random event logs. And say I want to start looking at this data within dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my dashboard here. And we're going to go ahead and click Create a New Dashboard. We're going to start with Classic Dashboards. So we're going to say Classic Basic so that we know that this is going to be kind of what I call basic tokens. We'll click Classic Dashboards here and click Create. And so here we have our dashboard. We can go ahead and add a panel if we want. So say we have a statistics table, and what we want to see is, let's go index equals main. We want to look at the severity, different events of different severities. So I can start it by saying severity equals low, or let's just say severity equals high, and then stats count by message. We can add this to the dashboard. We will have our data here. We have our message, the severity is high. But we want this to be a little bit more dynamic. We want the user to be able to select what severity they're looking for. And so to do that, we can edit this search. And so instead of giving it a specific severity value, if we wrap it in $signs here, and we give it a token name, and for this token name, I'm just going to call it severity. I can name it anything I want, but just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to call it severity. So we can click apply, and now the search is waiting for input because this token is not set. So what we can do, one way we can do it is we can click add input, and I'm going to choose drop down this time, and it's going to give us a drop down right here. We can edit it. The label I'm going to call severity. The token, so this is the token, as you can see, it says reference it as $sign token $sign. So this is what we want the token to be named. So in this search, we already did $sign severity $sign. So we want it to be severity because now that token is going to be set from here. And so we can do populate this in a couple different ways. I'm actually going to open up a different search tab here, so I can go back and say index equals main. And we can see here that severity, if we scroll down to the S's, severity is going to have informational, high, and medium as values. So if we go back and edit this, change this back to severity, it didn't save it there, so I clicked out of it, severity and severity. So we can either give that static options if we know that those three are the only values that we have, or we can also enter in a search to make these values a little bit more dynamic. So say we know that informational will be informational, medium will be medium, and high will be high. So name is what it's going to show up in our drop-down menu. Value is the value it's going to pass into the token. So if we go ahead and apply that and save this, you can see now we have severity of informational, medium, and high. So we can click that. And my Splunk is running a little slow there. And so I may have misspelled something here. Severity. Yep, I misspelled this token. And that is why. Severity. And that is an important thing to note. Not intentional, but important to note, is that the token name does have to match exactly. So now, if we go back here, change this, that is now our medium severities. Now we can change it to informational, get our informational severity events, and high. And as you can see, it's automatically populating that token in our search. If we were to open this up, you can see severity equals high. That token has populated from this field right here. And if we want to have something a little bit more dynamic, so say we weren't sure how many values that could have, this is hypothetical. So we can say, put a search in here. So if we have index equals name, we table out the severities and dedupe them for just all values. And we can apply this. Or actually, let me see, severity. It'll give us that field. We're looking at the field of severity. We're giving it the label of severity. And so this is a search that's going to populate the data. And so now it's going to populate that. And so now you can see we have informational, high, and medium, and that is coming directly from the search. And so we can change that, get new data, change it to high, get new data. And so that is a way that we can use what I call basic tokens, and that is directly from this drop down here. We can either set it on static options or dynamic options, and we can change the search below. If we were to go back and go to Dashboards and create a new Studio Basic and choose Dashboard Studio, we can do the same thing with Dashboard Studio. So we can go ahead and click Create. We are in Dashboard Studio here. We do have a lunch and learn from previous months about the basics of Dashboard Studio. So definitely recommend that if you're interested in knowing what all of these buttons mean and you're not sure about it and you've never used Dashboard Studio before, definitely recommend checking that out. But let's go ahead and put in a table. We are just basically duplicating the process we did last time. And so we're going to set up our search here. So again, we'll have index equals main. And again, I can put severity and give it a value. Stats count by message. And I believe that has to be a capital M. And so we give that a second. And again, we have our data here that we're expecting. And so this Dashboard Studio, I can kind of change it how I want. But again, with Dashboard Studio as well, if we want to make this a token, we can. So it is a very, very similar process in Dashboard Studio for basic tokens. So we'll click Apply there. We will click this and select a dropdown. We're going to go ahead and give it a title of severity. We'll give it a token name. So again, this is what we're wrapping in quotes, severity. And so it has a static menu already configured here. So again, we can put a label of informational, give it a value of informational. We could do a value of medium label, value of medium, and then we can give it a label of high and a value of high. Then we can save that. We can go ahead and choose, that's not how you spell medium, but it should still work as long as I did, yep. Informational and high. And you might notice that the star is left over. And so we don't have the star here. That is just, let me respell medium so that it is correct there. That's left over from where we deleted it and it didn't update. So all it takes is saving the dashboard, reloading this page, and it should only be the three. That's a great thing to point out. So it has a default value. Dashboard Studio, that is something that they've added, is that these all have a default value. And so the default is going to be star or all. So if I select none, now that is gone. And I can change this however I want. It will reload the page. It'll reload the search and get us that data. And that is kind of our static options. So once again, if we want to use a little bit more dynamic options, we can. So we'll remove all the static options here. We'll set up a data source. We'll give it another search. And we're going to go ahead and use that same exact search. Index equals main. We'll table its severities and dedupe them to have only the unique values. We'll go ahead and save that. It's going to load up those values. And again, it will load them up for us. And we can change that however we need to. And it will change our search there. And so that is what I consider basic tokens. So these are ones that are kind of manually set. There are other ways to do them, but this is kind of the most basic, most applicable to a large number of people. So I wanted to go over that. But now I wanted to show a little bit more dynamic tokens. So this I will show off. I already have some ones built here. So we're going to open up Dynamic Classic and Dynamic Studio. And so Dynamic Classic, we have a panel here that's populating a value, and then we're populating the messages for that value. So if we go ahead and look at this search, we're looking at index equals main top one event code. And then it's going to look at index equals main event code top one stats count by message. And so as we're looking here in our source, dynamic tokens within Dashboard Studio, within Classic Dashboards, if we're using dynamic tokens based off a search in the actual dashboard itself, we have to look at the source code. And so here, this is essentially our row. So we can look, expand it. So 3 to 21, lines 3 to 21 are what we're going to be looking at. It's going to be that search right here. And so if we look at the search 3 through 21, we have our query, index equals main, top one event code, earliest and latest times. And when that is done, so we wrap our token setting in done tags here. So when this search is done running, we want to set the token. We're going to call that token top one. We can name this whatever we want. So if I wanted to name this hello, I could. I'm just going to leave it as top one. And we're going to give that result.event code. So it's going to look at this search. It's going to look at the results. and it's going to look at the results of the field event code. We wrap that in $signs to let us know that that's going to be set as a token. And then this token is now set whenever that search runs. So then this next search, which is right here, we have our query, which is index equals main, event code equals top 1. So it's going to find these results. It's going to automatically populate that. And then we're counting out by message. And so that is something that each time I come into this dashboard, the way the search runs, it'll run the search each time I come into the dashboard. And so this is going to be dynamic results. Today, this value is 4663. Tomorrow, it could be something completely different. An hour from now, it could be something completely different. But all I want to know is what, in the last 24 hours, whenever I enter this dashboard, what's the top event code for my index? And so that is something I can set here and make my dashboard a lot more dynamic. Obviously, sometimes you want something more static, and that's why I went over that basic static setting. But if you want something more dynamic, this is how you do it within classic dashboards. And so that, again, is the source code editing. You can't do it in the GUI within classic dashboards, but you can do it within source code. And also something to show with your labeling, you can also use tokens in your labeling. So anytime you have this, you can go ahead and save that. You can see now that instead of numbers or $sign top 1 $, we now have populated the value from this token into our label itself. So it's not just setting tokens for searches. You can also set those tokens and use them in your labeling for dashboards as well. And so that is the basics of dynamic dashboard tokens in classic dashboards. But in Dashboard Studio, it is a little bit different. And so we have our first search here. So again, top 1, we have it index equals main, top 1 event code. But then we have this button here. So say I were to set up a different search. If I could create a random search here, you can see this is not selected by default. But if we go into the search that's powering this panel, this is selected. And so then we have it a top source name of top 1. So if we select this and if we hover over the question mark here, this is how we can reference the results of this search in our other searches by setting a token. So as you can see, use the following syntax: data source name, result or job dot field name. And so with this search, we have index equals main, event code equals $sign top 1, which is what we named the search for this panel. We're looking for the result, and we're looking for the result field of event code. And so it's going to populate this with this 4663. Obviously no results, not because the search didn't work, because there's literally no results for that field. And so this is how we can a little bit more easily, and all in the GUI, not source code editing, set these dynamic tokens in Dashboard Studio. So again, within editing our data source, we give it a name, we select access search results or metadata, and then in the search that we want to use it in, we give it a $sign search name result.event code, or result.message, result.whatever field you want to use there. And so again, just like our classic dashboard, this Dynamic Studio, if this value is completely different in an hour, completely different tomorrow, it's going to change itself every time I enter in this dashboard, and it's going to make these panels more dynamic, potentially more beneficial depending on what I'm looking for, rather than something that's static and the same every time. So that is what I consider and call dynamic tokens. So the last thing I want to show is cross-dashboard tokening. So we're going to go ahead and close some of these. And so here I'm going to open up two dashboards here. I'm going to open up USB dashboard and USB Studio copy. And so this, I'm going to go ahead and change this to 30 days so I get data. So this is a dashboard I've set up here. And so I'm specifically, all I'm doing in this dashboard is listing computers with USB actions. Obviously, this is my own computer, so it's only going to be me. It's going to show us the BitLocker events associated with that and any files accessed, and then the removal events. Not really very necessary. Sorry, I have a couple questions here. Am I correct in assuming the recording of this will be made available to us? That is correct. After this is over, you will get an email with the recording and any plans for a workshop on multi-select dropdowns. That is a great idea. Let me go ahead and write that down before I forget. Really a topic on all the types of dropdowns might be pretty interesting and how to use those in dashboards. So it's a great idea. Thanks, Dion. Back over here on the demo, let me blow my nose really quick. So we have the list of computers with USB actions. So say I come to this dashboard, say, okay, Eric PC has some USB actions. I'm interested in knowing more information about this PC. I have another dashboard that has, actually I can open it up here. I have another dashboard that will show application logs and system logs and security logs for a specific host if I set that token. I can set that token on this dashboard, populate it on this dashboard. So how to do that, I can go back to edit here. So on this panel, I can click these three dots, more actions, and edit drill down. So I have it set up so that on click, it's going to link to a dashboard. I pick out the specific dashboard that I want. I want it to open it up in a new tab. And then I can give it parameters. And parameters are token names. And so whenever I click this, something in this search, it's going to set a token called host. And it's going to set that token with the click value. So whatever value I click on, it will set the host token with that value. And so if I look here and say Eric PC, I can click that. It's going to open up the deep dive dashboard, and it's going to automatically populate that token with Eric PC value. I have these searches running index equals main, computer name equals the token name of host, log name application. And so it will automatically populate this dashboard using a token that I selected on a different dashboard. So it's a way that you can really start linking your dashboards together in a really dynamic way so that you don't have to necessarily put all the information in one dashboard. You can really create a whole series of dashboards that interlink with each other, talk to each other, and really work together. So you can really present data in a more dynamic and interesting way. And so again, with Dashboard Classic, that is done through the GUI. Dashboard Studio is very similar. So we have Dashboard Studio here. Let me push it out to 30 days so that we get some results. You can see I have it a little bit different. I can put some a little bit more text, things like that. But again, we have the same data. We have the same setup. And say, let's open up Deep Dive Studio. We have the same quote unquote deep dive dashboard here. You can see it's looking for specific searches with the host name here, with the host token. And so if I go back to this, I have this set up so that I can click this and it'll also set that token for me. So if I click edit, I will go to this panel. And if I scroll down, I will see a spot called interactions. And so I have an interaction set up to link to a dashboard. So if I click edit here, you can see I have on click. I have a number of different options. I'm going to go ahead and link to dashboard. Again, I'm going to select an app and a specific dashboard that I want. I want it to open up in a new tab personally. And so then I have the token name. And again, that is going to be host. So that's going to be what's going to be wrapped in quotation marks on the next dashboard. And then the token value will be the value that I click. So if I click Eric PC, it will set the host token to Eric PC. It will open up this dashboard and have that token preset, and any searches that use that token in this other dashboard will be populated. So if I go ahead and view this, click Eric PC, it's going to open up Deep Dive Studio for me, and it's going to have this data populated already. So again, if I want to give it a title and say, I think it starts with application logs for host, I go ahead and click save there. So again, I can use that same token in my titling as well. So we click view, there we go, it is set. And that was no interaction with this dashboard previously. It's all from this dashboard. And so I can really dynamically link those two together. And so that is the aspects. It's not the full breadth and depth of tokens within dashboards, but I think it's a great place to start with your more static tokens that we set within our dropdowns. We have looked at dynamic tokens, which we set with a search so that each time we open our dashboard, it could dynamically adapt to our data and what's relevant. And then finally, we looked at dashboard tokening across different dashboards. So clicking something on one dashboard, setting that token, opening up another dashboard with that token preset so that we can link those together in a really interesting dynamic way. And we looked at both of those, all of those on both Classic and Dashboard Studio. So I can go ahead and hop on back here to finish up the few slides I had left. So I'll give a minute or two here for questions. Happy to answer any of those in chat about dashboard tokens if it comes back up for me. I'm just going to leave it like that. I didn't want it to be big. Any questions that you have afterwards, feel free to email me, eholsinger@presidio.com. Happy to answer any questions. But I'll give a few seconds here to ask questions in the chat. And while I'm waiting for that, just want to say thanks a ton to everyone that joined. Very happy to see everyone here. Hopefully you gained some information that you can take back to your environments, make your dashboards a little bit more interesting, a little bit more valuable. Next month, we will have another Lunch and Learn about license usage. Definitely want to check that out. I'm glad to hear that, Michael. So happy that it helps. And as always, check out our Big Marker account. We have recordings of our previous Lunch and Learns there as well. You'll get a lot of great information on a variety of topics there. But as always, very glad to see everybody today. Thanks for joining, and hope you have a great day. Thanks.